Greetings, the Astro 30 here yet again, and welcome back to AEL. If you're new to this channel, please remember to go down and subscribe if you want to, and that'll help me out. I've just surpassed 3,000 subscribers the other day, which is excellent. Thanks guys. Now today, sitting on the desk, we've got a Luxman, I think it's an L-3 stereo amplifier, and the unique thing about this amplifier is it has a separate treble control for both left and right channels and a separate bass. Isn't that neat? Anyway, the fault with this is it was dropped off on Saturday, just gone, and one of the channels works and the other one doesn't, and that's all I know about it. It's got a bunch of input selections here using mechanical bank switches, so you've only got really three main inputs: a phono, tuner and auxiliary, plus the tape monitor switches and dubbing 1 to 2, 2 to 1, etc. Subsonic filter, high cut, mono mode and loudness. That's it. And also the balance control down here is not central, the knob's not central. It's also got the nastiest looking line cord on it that I've ever seen. It's all dirty as anything, it's sticky. Don't know what that is. Don't particularly care. Anyway, they say that on the front panel here this is a stereo integrated amplifier, so I don't know what the output stage is like, whether it's an integrated circuit or whether it's discrete, but I'm going to find out pretty soon. Now, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to power it up via the dim bulb, and I'm just going to measure the output terminals at the back there to see if we've got any DC offset. Okay, dim bulb is on and turned on, and I'm just going to turn the unit on just to see if there's any life. There is, and the dim bulb dimmed right out, so there's no major fault by the sounds of things, like a short. Don't hear a relay click, it probably doesn't have one. So I've got both speakers A and B selected at the same time, so I'm just going to measure one of the output terminals here once I sort my leads out and see what we get. We've got like 7 odd millivolts on the right hand channel, and on the left it's a little bit higher, 94, but that's alright. It's still within a good specification. It could be a biasing issue, but it means both output stages are apparently okay and not short-circuited. So what I need to do now is I need to load the amplifier and measure it into an oscilloscope to see which one of the channels is not working. My money is going to be on the left channel because the DC offset is slightly higher. So let me get that set up, which is going to be considerably a hard problem because that's the only input connector, a DIN socket. There are no RCA sockets for the ARCs, the phono, or anything. That just says tape to connect. How am I supposed to get input into it? Alright, well, I suppose what I can do now is I'll just pull the top and we'll have a look inside first, and then I'll see how I'm going to get a signal to inject into it. Oh, how quaint. When I actually turned the unit onto its side to undo the screws for the cabinet, because there's no screws on the side, there's all the input sockets there on the bottom, which is kind of an awkward layout, but alright. Anyway, I'll continue popping the lid off. So this is a U-shaped design with lips on the bottom, so this should just slide backwards and off. That's the theory anyway. Not that I can make it slide at all. I forgot a screw. That's helpful, isn't it? Let's try that again. That's what happens when you get distracted when filming. So you forget to take screws out. Although this still doesn't want to slide very easily. It will, it's just tight. That's what she said. Now, come on. Alright, it's coming. That's going to be a real prick to put back on, I can tell you. Wow. Jesus. Finally. Well, that's a good look at the internals. Apart from a shitload years worth of dust in there, it's yeah, pretty bad layout. I mean, here's the two main filter capacitors here, and that's the heatsink for the power amps, and I cannot see. Oh yeah, it's a discrete output state. There's two transistors here per channel. They're just in the center of the board there. So it is a transistor amp, and it doesn't look like there's a removable bottom either, which I guess you wouldn't really need because you can just take the heatsink out to service it. Okay, so I've got 600 millivolts peak to peak roughly going in to the auxiliary input. The scope is set for 500 millivolts per division on each channel, and the yellow trace is the left and the blue trace is the right. So I'll turn it on. Well, I saw some activity from the right hand channel. Give it some volume, and yeah, immediately I'm on the wrong time base. Oh wait, the left is trying to amplify. But yeah, currently there's only the right channel there. Well, that's interesting. So why, when I put the balance full to the left, nothing happened, it's all gone. Full to the right and see what happens. The left is trying to do something, but not much. Okay. So let me just change this generator to a square wave. Just going to check the operation of treble, bass. Oh yeah, those controls are doing something. Treble's very subtle, and the scope's dancing around because it's trying to trigger to, well, the yellow trace, which is the left channel, which is not working. So right away, it's definitely the left channel that's got a problem. Now, as to why, well, that's what I'm unsure of. I would really have to do two things. First, I'd have to like blow out all this crap in here, the dust and shit, and then I'd have to look at each individual amplifier module. Now, they've got it hardwired to everything, so that in itself would present a problem. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug the headphones into the headphone jack here and just see what I can hear coming on the left hand channel. Okay. I can hear the signal on the right. And apart from the volume potentiometer being noisy, I cannot hear anything on the left. Alright. So that just didn't prove anything. That just means that the left channel is completely dead, which verifies the complaint. However, is it the amplifier that's dead, or is it the preamp that's not outputting the signal? So I need to find out where the signal input to the power amplifiers comes off this main board here, which is the preamplifier and selector board. I'm actually thinking that this may be a power amplifier only, there's no preamp, because it doesn't look like there's much discrete circuitry or ICs or anything that I can see in here except on this volume board here. So that's not very helpful, is it? So we've got wires coming out here which go over to this board down here, which is the bass and treble, and then wires going out, but I don't see which ones enter the power amp, which is kind of annoying because I want to look at the signal going into the power amp after all this circuitry here to see if we've even got a signal. Yeah, but it really needs dusting out because I hate working on stuff that's just covered in a layer of dust. It makes seeing things harder. I also don't like the fact that they've made this with the PCB facing with the copper side up, so you can't actually see the components on the other side. This section over here looks like the phono preamp. Everything else, yeah, it doesn't appear to have what I would call a preamp. Well, this volume board does have a bunch of transistors on it, so it may have some form of preamp. Oh, I'd have to actually look at the service manual. Right, well, according to the service manual, this bass treble board, there is a couple of transistors which add to boosting the signal, and the volume control board has a couple of transistors on it as well, so that is basically its only preamp. The output of which comes off of this board to the power amps. This lead here, which you can't see, is coming from the other side of the amp, which is the volume board, so that's the input. So the output will be down there somewhere. Now I've got to find out where the audio lead is. I've just found the audio input lead to the power amp right there. So I can just probe my oscilloscope on that pin there and see if we get a signal on the scope for that channel. Turn that back on. Alright, so with my probe, I'm going to touch the input, and I can't see anything because I'm still in times 10. It might help if I went to times 1. I don't see a signal. Alright. So let me just turn the volume up. That's my right channel, but there's nothing coming at the left. So maybe the fault's not at the power amplifier. That's interesting. Wait, scratch that. I didn't have the volts per division on my oscilloscope high enough. There is definitely a signal there. It's square wave, so I'm going to change that generation back to the sine wave and do that again. We've got a reasonably strong signal there, so that's alright. So yeah, there's definitely an issue with the power amp. Alright, well that gives me direction of where to go. The amplifier itself on the front says stereo integrated amplifier. However, according to the service manual, there's not an integrated circuit in it. But anyway, it could mean integrated in a different manner. However, each channel has an output fuse, so 1.6 amps. So I'm going to do the obvious and test the fuses to make sure they're not blown. I'm not sure which one's which. That one's fine. That one's dead. That one's fine. That one is also dead. So we've got a blown fuse here, and a blown fuse here. So I'm not sure which fuse is which. I mean, both would be probably for the left channel, I reckon. One's probably the DC's fuse and the other one's the output fuse. So I'm going to have to look at the schematic and figure out what these two fuses do, which one's which. I don't think it really matters, both are blown. So got the two fuses out there sitting on the desk. I did measure across each fuse holder to ground just to make sure there's no short circuits there. There is not. So the question is, why did these fuses blow? Well, there's no output short circuit protection other than the fuse going in line with the output and the socket. Someone probably just simply shorted the output to ground and blew the fuses. And if that's all the issue is just blown fuses, well, this is going to be an easy repair. So what I'm going to do is, I don't have 1.6 amp fuses, I've got a couple of 3s, but I'm only going to put them in there as a test, and I'll go buy some proper 1.6 fast blow fuses later, just to verify that there's no other problems with the amplifier. Couldn't hurt, and I'm going to do it on the dim bulb so there's no risk of blowing stuff up. Couple of new fuses installed. I haven't got the amplifier loaded yet, but I have got the voltmeter across its output and no input signal. So I'm going to turn it on and see if anything strange happens. No. As for the output, well, it's hovering around 50 millivolts. 30-20 is settling down. Alright, should be safe to assume we can load it. Alright, amplifier is loaded. I'll turn the volume down. That doesn't look good. Yeah, that amplifier doesn't like to be loaded. Right, so we've got a fault. Alright, I've switched my grounds around correctly so that the ground of the oscilloscope probe and that channel is coming out of the ground post relevant to that channel, not where I had it. So now the left channel has an output. I also don't have the right hand channel loaded. There could be a ground loop issue there, which is why, because my oscilloscope is grounded at both of these input posts. Yeah, that could cause a problem. But we've got a nice clean signal coming out, which is wonderful. And it's quite strong actually, so I don't know what I'm in, 50 millivolts. I need to be at 500 millivolts per division on both so I can see what I'm doing. Right, it's not going to be very happy with the dim bulb in circuit, but before it starts going strange, I'm getting 24 volt, yeah, about 22.6 volt peak to peak out, which is not bad. I'll verify the other channel in a minute, which, because we're on the dim bulb, is only going to be pushing around about 8 watts, which is fine. I'm not really interested in its power output at this stage. All I'm interested in is whether each channel is working correctly. So let's compare the voltage of 22.6 to the right hand channel output. I'm on the right hand channel now, and whoa, that starts to break up. It seems that the right hand channel is weaker than the left. Alright, well, this is not proving anything, so I'll plug some headphones in and see if the signal is balanced. Indeed it is. Okay. Sounds fine to my ears with headphones, so each channel is contributing, and we've got noisy controls. Alright, I'm going to say it's safe to assume that we can hook this up to a pair of speakers. Alright, got my TAC test speakers hooked up that I don't really care about. It's still hooked up across the dim bulb. Yeah, it's not functioning into the speakers correctly. And there's a hum on the left. Okay, well, well, that's kind of disappointing. And the hum's getting progressively louder. We might have a faulty capacitor too. So, well, I've proved that it will work with some new fuses, but it's just not performing correctly, and I'm not going to plug it in the wall directly without the dim bulb at the moment. But yeah, with the speaker connected, it should not be drawing that much current. So it wasn't with the dummy load, it is with the speaker for some reason, I don't know why. Let me just try and not load the right hand channel for a minute. Still the same problem. Okay, let me unload the suspect left channel and reload the right channel and see what happens. Well, for some reason now we've got no output at the right. Oh, that's why. Bad grounding. Alright, let me try loading the suspect left channel again. Yeah. Now it doesn't work at all. Right, so when both channels are loaded, it doesn't seem to work correctly. So that means we've got a faulty power amplifier on this side, which means I'd have to pull it out. I mean, there is sound coming out of it, but yeah, there's probably an issue with capacitors or something. I mean, if it's passing a signal, then all the transistors should be fine. But I really need to clean up the inside of this so I can actually see what's going on and change probably some capacitors. I mean, you can tell how old this is. Look at the size of this 220 microfarad 50 volt cap. They're about 3 times smaller than that now. Well, probably not quite that small, probably half the size of that now. So yeah, I reckon it probably need all its capacitors changed, and just to verify that the transistors are all functioning correctly. And yeah, I'm not going to do that in this video because I've got other things I need to get going, but I will take this outside and dust it out so I can see a little bit better. Okay, I've dusted it out as best as I can with everything in the way. Still not clean. I did notice that when I uncovered some dust here, another fuse, but I've checked that fuse, it's fine, so I'm not sure what that fuse is for. However, that's kind of not relevant right now. What I have to do is pull this heatsink out and, well, the board away from the heatsink, which means disconnecting the output stage, and they have put access holes on the other side of the PCB to get to the screws at least, which is good, I suppose. Go through, check joints, check you know, components, and just recap it. I mean, it's probably a 30-40 year old amplifier now, and those capacitors are not the best looking. Apparently these are Nippon Chemco. So if anyone has any ideas on Nippon Chemco capacitors and what their thoughts on them are, let me know. So yeah, just recap both power amplifiers. I mean, there's no point just doing one. There's 4 220 microfarad 50 volt capacitors on this side, but only one on that side. So this must be sharing the capacitors on this side as well, which is fine, I guess. And one 47 microfarad 50 volt capacitor. And there's a couple of other electrodes down here which I can't see what values they are offhand. I could look at the schematic, but right now, yeah. They don't look to be bulging or anything silly like that. But yeah, we've got hum there on the left channel, and I'm not really sure about these large electrode capacitors here, which are also Nippon Chemco. They're 50 volt, 68,000 microfarad. So, 6800 rather. Now, before I conclude this video and before anyone puts it down in the comments below, the reason we have a hum on the left channel is most likely one or both of these main filter caps are beginning to go bad and become electrically leaky. They don't have to be physically leaky, but if they're basically turning into a resistor, well, they're not going to filter the DC supply properly, hence the hum. So in the next part and final part, I hoped, to this video, or to this amplifier anyway, I'll explore these filter caps and see if they are actually indeed bad. Because we do actually have two working channels. It's just that on the dim bulb the right hand channel drops out when the left one is loaded. Not sure why yet, but I'm probably still going to recap the power amplifier as well, replace all these old caps with brand new ones just for preventative maintenance. Yeah, but leave your thoughts down below. But yeah, that's where we're at. If anyone's got any other suggestions of where I could go, because when you load the left hand channel, the dim bulb glows quite bright, about probably a quarter, maybe a third of its brightness. So it's indicating there is a problem there, and then there's no output on the right channel anymore, which is interesting. I've taken my two fuses I put in out. I've got to get the correct fuse. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So I'm going to leave this video here, and if you guys enjoyed it, please remember to go down below, comment, like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will be revisiting this amplifier in a future video, but for now I've got other things to do today, so I don't really have the time to invest in it. So look out for that video. Anyway, as always, this is Astro 3 saying thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.